Yo, what is up, guys? Gilnor's Hero is back here again for a new video. Uh, it's been a little over a month since I made a video. Um, my last video did quite well. I have a few ideas sorry, for those types of that type of content again. We'll definitely be trying to roll out more videos. I've been slacking off. Um, a lot has happened in the past few months, honestly the past year. But anyways, today I have an entirely brand new video concept, I guess. I saw a similar person do this concept. I can't remember his name, but I saw he did a similar concept to this. And by no meaning am I copying his video or just doing exactly what he's done. I'm not doing that. Um, but it will be similar to his video. I don't remember his name, but um yeah, let's get started. So so basically this is like a item review, if you want to call it, like reviewing a piece of utility, you know what I mean, in old school, of course. Um I'm not gonna do this with every piece of utility. I will only do this not like I won't do this for like Torag's armor, you know what I mean? Or a niche item, you know what I'm saying? I'll do this more as a broad thing. Like for a set of armor or a certain weapon or you know, certain potion combinations. You know what I mean? Or things like that. But today I wanted to save a few of the other spicy weapons and armor for a different time, but I still wanted to start with a banger. And today we're starting this new series. This is, I don't know what I'm gonna call it, but um yeah, this is the first episode of the series and many more will come after this. Um Today we have the one and only Osmumten's Fang. This weapon currently right now on the GE tracker is currently, hold up, let me, can I not edit this, dude? Really? Oh. It is currently, at the time of recording this, I just checked, 20 point, well actually, was it? Yeah, it was 20.1 million coins for a weapon that transcends what a 20 million weapon should look like. You know what I mean? Like you have 20 million weapons in this bracket in other like in other combat styles, right? You have the Sang staff, which is around 20 mil. You have the dual Makluweedle. Oh jeez. You have the full Blood Moon armor, right? With the dual Makluweedles. God. Oh my god, I should have pronounced that before I started this. But you have the dual Makaweedles, right? With full Blood Moon armor, which is around right now I think it's around 22-ish, 23 mil, I'm not mistaken. The Sang staff currently is 21 mil. For range, the only thing that I can think of in this kind of bracket is the Toxic Blowpipe, but that's currently sitting at 10 mil. If you put in darts and scales, the extra like what, like 500k depending on the darts. If it's dragon darts, you're looking at over a mil. But this sort of bracket, right? This sort of mid to sorry, this sort of mid to beginning to get into high level bracket of weapons, right? I'm not talking about armor. I'm talking about what. Well, obviously the Makawados work better with the armor, but that's an exception. But what I'm trying to say is, in this certain mid to high level bracket where you're starting to get weapons and things like that that are over 15 mil, a little over 20 mil, you're starting to push it now. You know what I'm saying? Like things like the Eclipse Atlatl or the blowpipe, right, or the Sang staff, things like that. They're in like a 10 to like 20 mil, kind of bracket, right? And these weapons are good. Don't get me wrong. The Makawados with no, I finally pronounced it right. The Makawados with full Blood Moon armor, which is around 22 mil, great for mid level 2-ish to highish level content. The blowpipe is great all around, but it gets beaten by other weapons I will talk about. The Sang staff, well, right now it doesn't have its buffs, but when it does get its buffs, it will definitely be putting up a fight against the Eye of Ayak, that's for sure, because those buffs are absolutely nutty. And then what did I say again? Oh, I said the Atlatl with the Eclipse Moon armor. These weapons can go to a certain mid to breaking into high level kind of bracket, right? In terms of PVM. In terms of PVM encounters like bosses, raids, things like that, right? But the thing about the Fang, which is so insane, is this is a weapon that not just the mid to highish level, breaking into high level content like running entry, TOAs, or I don't want to say that's high level. I mean like running like 250 TOAs, right? Or doing things like Vorkath, right? Vorkath's kind of mid, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? Or doing things like gorillas, demonic gorillas, right? Those other weapons, what I just said, the Atlatl, the Makawados with Blood Moon, the Blowpipe, they're all good for things like Toa, for things like Gorillas, for things like Chambers, right? Um, sorry. Even Vorkath, you can get away with using a Blowpipe, although it's not that efficient. But what I'm trying to say is these weapons have a certain cap at what they can do, right? The Sang staff, currently the Sang staff, right? Because it doesn't have its buffs. The blowpipe, the Atlatl, the Makawados with with the Blood Moon armor, right? But the thing that sets the Fang apart, a part of this mid to highish to breaking into high level content like bracket, is the Fang is in the same sort of 10 to 25 millish price range, right? When you're trying to buy weapons and armor that are, you're getting up there now. You know what I'm saying? You're not there yet, but you're putting up a fight now. You know what I mean? You're getting there. You're running. You're pushing forward to that, right? The thing that sets the Fang apart from all these other items and weapons and things like that is this is a weapon that can do Chambers of Zarek. It can do Tecton. This can do Nex. This can do Corporal Beast. This can do Alchemical Hydra. It's actually on par with the Lance, depending on if your gear is actually um, pretty much rags. The Fang will actually be better than a Lance because you need the accuracy bonuses from your melee gear and high stats, right? Because it penetrates through any defense, doesn't matter as long as it's stab, right? Um, and then running 300 Toas, 300 to 500 to 600 Toas. You could run a 5, whatever the max invocation level for a Toa, I believe it's 595. The Fang will still be the best in slot weapon. The Fang is the best in slot weapon when doing Nex while hybriding, along with a Blood Fury. But I mean, that's a healing utility. Forget about that, right? But the fact that this weapon, right, can supersede a scythe, right? At Nex, people don't even use a scythe at Nex because the Fang cuts through that defense, right? You can't use a scythe at Toa, right? Fang is way better because everything's weak to stab and it gets a double multiplier, right? Um, it, I forgot another one. Cerberus. It's quite good. It can actually accuracy at Cerberus if your gear is quite low, right? I'll put this up here as well. Um but like You have okay, hold up. Let me make another slide. Okay, right? So you have Blood Moon armor with Mox. I'm just gonna call him Mox, right? 23 mil. Toxic. Alright, let's see. Toxic blowpipe with let me do amethyst 1000. Let's put like 3000 scales in there, right? Um this is around almost 11 mil. I'd say like 10.7, right? Eclipse Atlatl with armor is around 8 mil, and then you have the Fang. Oh, sorry, the Fang staff. Sorry. 22 mil, right? Okay. Look at all these prices, right? They're fitting a sort of 10 to 25 millish kind of bracket, right? Which the Fang sits at 20 mil. The blowpipe with amethyst, right? Even with dragon, because it doesn't affect your accuracy. A blowpipe with Missouri or Elite Void is substantially better than a blowpipe with Black D'hide. And also you have to, I'm putting into account Rigor, Piety, and Augury are all counted. If you didn't know, I am counting all three of those pairs. The Blood Moon armor with the Mox, right? 23 mil, right? It can only push to a certain level because as you get to higher level content, right? The defense of things becomes so high that the Fang just outshadows it. Then you have the Atlatl with the armor. Sure, it's good for, I'd say, 150 to 220 Toas, right? But after that, it kind of gets outshadowed by Boa Ferdian. But I'm not talking about that, right? I'm not talking about the Bofa with Crystal. That'll be another video for sure. But also the Sang Staff for Mage, right? I'm not saying the Fang can replace what a ranged or magic weapon can do because it doesn't do magic or ranged damage. It's obviously not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is all these weapons are in a certain 10 to 25 million bracket, and they can go to highish level content. They can break into high level content, but they can't exceed high level content. Meanwhile, the Fang is freaking 20 mil, and it can run a 595 Toa in perfect efficiency because obviously the weapon is made for the raid. So that's, I mean, obviously, no, like, come on, it's made for the raid. So obviously it's going to be broken in there. But even outside of it, it's great at gorillas. It hits super accurate on gorillas. I was hitting 48s today with it. Super accurate, right? Tecton. It destroys Tecton even if you miss hammers because the accuracy passive is so broken. At Nex, it destroys Nex when you're hybriding with using ranged armor. It destroys Nex. Corporal Beast. Corporal Beast, it destroys Corporal Beast because it's a Corp Bane weapon, which means it does full damage to Corp, but also the freaking accuracy rolls on something as tanky as Corp. It doesn't give a shit about that, about Corp's defense. It'll just penetrate right through. For 20 mil. Vorkath. This is a better alternative that's almost as good, if not as good as the Lance in rag gear. As crazy as that is to say, and the Lance is made to kill dragons. Okay? General Grador, if you're melee tanking, this weapon is incredible. Because even though he's super tanky, this thing will penetrate straight through his defense, even if you don't defense reduce use a defense reducing spec attack on him. For Hydra, this is a great weapon for someone who's on a budget who probably doesn't have a DHCB with, Void or a Bofa with Crystal. As someone who's doing Slayer and their gear isn't too good, but they still want a weapon to kill Hydra effectively. This is your go-to. Just like with the thing with Vorkath. A weapon made for dragons almost, if not gets outshadowed by a freaking sword from a raid that's 20 mil that performs better in trash gear and lower stats. Cerberus, I just kind of stuck that one in there. I've never really done the boss. I don't know how good the Fang is there, but I on the wiki it was next to the Arclight, so I'm guessing it's around that level in terms of good. But what I'm trying to get at here is that this weapon, right? Let me show you guys some examples of like crazy, hold up. Okay, look at this. Check this out. Okay. Okay, these are just two examples. The Dragon Hunter lance and the bow. Okay, the Dragon Hunter lance 56 mil. The bow of Faradina is 170 mil. Right. The thing I'm trying to get at here is that you can use the Fang at Cerberus. You can use it at Hydra. You can use it at Grotto if you're melee tanking with Justiciar. You can use it at Vorkath instead of a lance. You can use it at Toa as your main melee weapon. You can use it as Gorillas. Now, what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to say the Lance and Bofa and Crystal aren't better. Obviously, you can't melee the last phase of Warden, so Fang's useless. Obviously, if you're in a really expensive melee gear and you have a Lance and max stats, of course it's going to do better at Vorkath and Hydras and dragons of that sort. Obviously, I mean that makes sense, right? Um, and obviously the Bofa with Crystal replaces is there one of the best ranged options for a phase where you can't use melee, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying the Fang can replace magic or ranged weapons when you have to use magic or ranged, and the enemy encounter is praying melee and you can't hit him with melee. Of course, that doesn't make any sense. Obviously not. But what I'm trying to get at is that this weapon is not as nearly gear dependent as something like a lance. For using a melee example, right? It's not nearly as gear dependent as using a blowpipe with against Vorkath, right? You're using freaking Black D'hide. Yeah, man, it's gonna be rough. But now if you clock in, Fortified Emissary with a blowpipe and Dragon Darts, Vendor, Ring, Treads, Quiver, you're moving different, right? But what I'm trying to say is that you can take this freaking weapon with. Sorry, give me one sec. Sorry. You can take this weapon to Vorkath, right? With a fighter torso, salve amulet. Oh, well, obviously, salve amulet is free. I'm an idiot. Okay, fighter torso, right? Now let me just make an example here. Hold up. Torso, fire cape, right? Okay. Uh, four, almost five of the things I just listed are free. Your torso is free from Barbarian Assault. Your fire cape's free from doing fight caves. Your Dragon Defender is free from killing the Cyclopses in the Warriors Guild, right? And then your Barrel's gloves are obviously free from um doing Recipe for Disaster, right? You can take a Nezi helm. Okay, let me write all this down. Nezi helm, Torax, plate legs, B ring eye, okay, torso, fire cape, salvii. Nazi helm, thorax, plate legs, B-ring, eye, torso, fire cape, dragon defender, barrels, gloves, and dragon boots, right? That comes out to, if we're taking out the B-ring is currently 3 mil, right? If you take that out, you lose like I think a 2 max hit. Take that out, right? Replace that with, I don't know, something else of your choice. You can have an effective Vorcat setup using a Fang with a few other niche items, effective Vorcat setup for around 25 mil. And that'll get you through. And one thing is, someone told me, the invest in your stats. It's the best investment you can ever make, and invest in your prayers. And they were right. But you can have an effective Vorcat setup, right? If you're a mid-level player, you just saved up your first, 30, 40 mil, right? And you're looking for someone to buy. And let's say you just did Dragon Slayer 2. You're now about to break into, high level-ish content, right? And you want to hit up Vorkath, right? You can make an effective setup for 25 mil with a Fang, and it'll kick ass. Whilst a Lance in this setup would be, it wouldn't be terrible, but the Lance is so dependent on things like Pharaoh gloves, Prims, a Vernic defender, strength boost. But the thing about the Fang and the Lance that's such a fight is the Lance is so much more dependent on accuracy buffs from things like Pharaoh's, Prims, Infernal Cape, Vernic Defender, things like that, right? Obviously, the Fang would benefit from that, but it's a much smaller increment than the Lance, because the Fang is already operating at such a level, at such an accuracy rolling level, that it doesn't give a shit about defense. Its passive is already so incredible on things that are weak to stab and have high defense, right? That it doesn't really matter that much. Obviously, max hits are better, but what I'm trying to say is that the passive is so strong that the need for accuracy boosting gear is much less, and it can still operate at such a high efficiency level while you're probably wearing rags and you have low melee stats. Meanwhile, with the Lance, you have the same melee stats. Let's say 80s, right? You buff that with the super combat and piety, you get up to 90s, but you're wearing rags, right? The Lance is not gonna work as efficiently as the Fang can. It will not. Also, let's say you save your first 50 mil. You're like, hey man, I want to do raids. You know what I mean? I want to get into raids. I don't want to wait till I have so much money. So wait till I have 100 mil to do raids. Wait till I have both to do raids. You know what I mean? You take that gear, right, that I just listed. You buy the Eclipse Atlatl set with Moon's armor, right? With the Eclipse Moon armor. You pick up a Trident of the Swamp with Arims, and you fill out some other niche items. You're looking at a setup that's around 40, 45 mil that can efficiently do up to, like, I'd say up to 250 raids efficiently, with efficiency, not with, struggling and oh my god, this is terrible, because you got to add in a blowpipe in that setup too. So you're pushing almost 50 mil, right? You can have an effective TOA 250 rating setup for under 50 mil. And a lot of it comes from this weapon right here. That's so broken, it transcends what a mid to high level to end game weapon should be, because it can hit every single bracket and it hits them at almost max efficiency. If they're weak to stab and they got high defense, it's time to use the Fang, as long as you're not praying melee. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, it's just so good for the price. It's so incredibly good for the price. And that's the end of this video, guys. I'm gonna have another one up later, maybe in a few days. But I hope you guys have a great day. I enjoyed making this type of video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Gilnor's Hero is now out. Peace.